Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
What's up, Tag Me In Bro universe? Happy Wednesday. It's Taryn here. We're here to go over last night's episode of SmackDown Live. But first, I'm here to say it feels like fall, and I love that. I love fall. Summer has been long and wonderful and hot, like really, really hot. And I'm very, very excited for it to cool down a little bit, to kind of cozy up and keep watching some wrestling, maybe especially some Hell in a Cell this Sunday for the pay-per-view. And speaking of Hell in a Cell, you guys don't want to miss out on one single second of Tag Me In Bro content, so go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro. We'll have a prediction episode coming out for Hell in a Cell. We do interaction polls. We'll talk about one later in the show today. And we're always tweeting out new content, so go on Twitter, follow us, and now get ready for the show, because it's about to go down in a big way. Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling here at Tag Me In Bro. If you're new to the show, I'll explain a little bit. We're going to start by running down all of the most important things that you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Then we'll move on to our Hi to the People segment, where we want to engage with you guys to find out more about your views on a certain topic for this week. This week, what we're going to be talking about, it's a little bit fun, but it's Birdie Joe Danielson versus Maurice Mizanin. We'll see. We'll talk about it later. Then we'll move on to our main event, where we'll be talking about the question on everyone's mind this week. And then we will close out the show with our stars of the night. This week, our main event topic is going to be what is next for AJ Styles post-championship. Assuming that he loses it on Sunday. I'm not saying that's my prediction, but it is a definite possibility. But we'll be talking about that much more later in the show. And now it's time to get to our SmackDown speed through.
Woo!
Here are the only 5 things you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Number 5, Charlotte Flair versus Sonya Deville. Number 4, Happy Rusev Day at Hell in a Cell. Number 3, Samoa Joe Storytime. Number 2, a promo from AJ Styles. And number 1, Brie Bella versus Maurice in the main event. Okay, so starting at number 5, we're bookending it with the women this week. We had Charlotte Flair face Sonya Deville in what I think we all thought would be a squash match. And it pretty much was just a squash match. But what I really loved about it was that at the end, as Charlotte is leaving with her championship, we had her go back, try to take a picture with a fan, which I did think, I was like, that's kind of cute, but kind of weird. And then we had Becky Lynch come out of the crowd. I love when they do wrestler like disguises. I always think it's like a strange but incredible part of their weird costuming choice. So we had Becky Lynch in like a black wig and glasses come out and like totally attack Charlotte. Amazing move. I think it made Becky look so badass, especially going into this pay-per-view. Not that Becky hasn't looked badass, but in their attempt to play her as a heel, she hasn't really gotten over because she is such a babyface. And I don't think we want her to look mean. I think we want her to look angry. And I do think there's a slight difference there. And I think that this week they kind of really wrapped that up nicely. And that's how it played. Like, you understand why Becky's so upset. She is, I think, the heel in this fight, and I think that's clear to us. And her reasons are super clear. Like, her motivation for going after Charlotte and attacking her basically at every turn that she can is very clear, very strong. And I'm excited for their match on Sunday. So, well done. Number 4, we had the last match in this kind of number 1 contender tournament for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. It was Rusev Day versus The Bar. And Rusev Day won. Amazing. A newly reunited Rusev Day. Rusev and Aiden English. Rusev looked amazing in this match. He is so agile for such a large man, which is just not something we get to see particularly often in the WWE. I know we as fans talk about it all the time, but I think they really allowed him to play to that in this week's match, which again goes to show what great competitors and contenders Sheamus and Cesaro are. I think especially for some of the like the larger, bulkier, stockier men, I think it gives them the opportunity to, to kind of like fight someone their own size, but to play to different elements of their skill set and of their in-ring move set, which I thought was great. Lana's still there. It's a little unclear why. Not that I don't love Lana, I do, but I think in this world where she's trying to kind of make her name as a singles competitor, it felt a little odd to have her there because it feels like it takes away from the Aiden-Rusev feud, which I think is really important and really what we're building to. But it's going to be a happy Rusev Day. We had the New Day on commentary. Big E made pancakes, made pancake batter while they were there. And after they won, when they were kind of trash talking back and forth, he just kept saying, brunch will be served by the New Day. The New Day. Brunch brought to you by the New Day, which I thought was hysterical. It was very funny. And I'm really excited for their match. I think it's going to be really good. Who are the heels? I think it's Rusev Day, and that still fills me with a little bit of sadness because I think Rusev is a great babyface, but I'm excited that they have this opportunity. I think it's a really good place for them to be. It feels like Rusev is back on track. Number 3, we have Samoa Joe's story time. So for the WWE Championship, we did only see promos this week, which I think is good because I think they've built enough tension that we know that anytime AJ and Samoa Joe are together, they're going to fight. It will be inevitable that they hit each other. So I think keeping them apart was a really smart choice for this week because it's leading to that ultimate feud and ultimate match this Sunday. I think that Samoa Joe had this book, we all know, and he went through the story, and it ended with him, the WWE Championship, and then Wendy Styles and AJ's daughter. If their goal is to creep us out, which it is, wow, they are doing a fabulous job. It is terrifying and scary and creepy. And I think it goes to show that these two men are not just incredible in-ring performers, but they absolutely have the ability to carry a very powerful and strong story on the mic. And that's what they've been doing these past few weeks. Samoa Joe looks terrifying, and it was a really powerful reiteration of why he's coming for this championship, that he's coming, and that at least to the best effect that he is in AJ Styles' head. And he's certainly in my head because that is terrifying and in my nightmares. Moving forward, the response to that, our number 2 moment. I did choose to do them separately because I think they deserve their own separate commentary, but they really are intertwined, which good promos should be. But was AJ's response where he had actually come into the arena earlier that day to film. One question, who told him to sit like that? Who thought that stance was a good idea? It's very weird. I don't know why. I found all of it struck me as strange. Just the way he was positioned, I found really strange. It's the thing I don't love about the before the stadium promos. Let them be live, because that was weird. It was just, the seated part was weird, but the content was amazing, I thought. Very no nonsense. I think what it shows is how very clearly these two people see their characters and their roles in this feud. And AJ was there to be very no nonsense. And he was like, you may think you're in my head. You may bring up my family. He's like, you have a family, Samoa Joe. And I'm not the type of person to stoop low enough to bring them into this, because the reason that I am here is because I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the business. And when we get into that ring on Sunday, you'll see that none of this talk, none of this trash talk, none of these games matter, because I'm going to beat you, because that's what I do. Again, incredibly passionate, incredibly emotional, really clear storytelling. And I am hype, guys. I am ready for the Samoa Joe AJ Styles match. I think this has been booked incredibly well. I cannot wait to see it at Hell in a Cell. And, I've played right into their hand. AJ Styles is one of my favorite wrestlers. He is a big babyface. I really hope he retains, which is amazing that a champion this long into their reign can still have fans being like, I hope you retain. And that is absolutely a testament to how well they have booked and built this storyline. So absolutely loved it. And the number one because controversial, I think the number one just in terms of pure quality is the AJ promo. But the number one moment for us this week was the main event, Brie Bella versus Maurice Mizanin. Not a main event I thought SmackDown Live would see, if I'm being perfectly honest. Was I excited? Absolutely, I was excited. Was it a little sloppy? Yes. Did that make it a little disappointing? Yes. I think that you can tell the company didn't really want them to wrestle. They just wanted it billed as such, which is really frustrating, just because Brie Bella is in, I would argue, the best shape of her career. And I think absolutely has the ability to do it. I also think Maurice is a 2-time champion. Maurice is a great wrestler, and she was a great wrestler amongst divas, and now in this women's revolution, she, I think, is still a great wrestler. Like, I would love to see them actually go at it. Yes, she gave birth 5 months ago, so how is she feeling, like, in herself and her body? Unclear, but I don't think she would take it on if she didn't feel ready for it. And I think she is ready for it. So I kind of wish they would have actually put a little more time into letting those two work that out and wrestle. I think that if they were going for a kind of call it in the ring style, that they might not be ready for that. I would like to see them practiced a little bit more, and I hope on Sunday we do get to see them wrestle, and that it is a little more rehearsed, because I think there's some moves that they both do that are amazing. The French Kiss DDT, I was so excited just to hear them call that it might be happening, but it didn't look like that's what was happening, and I think that's a big issue. But I do think that the way that they are allowing Brie Bella and The Miz, like, specifically to fight each other and hit each other is great. And I know that it's The Miz, like, pulled Brie out of the ring and then kind of apologized because she hit her back. Brie Bella punched him in the face and kind of sent him over the ropes. That's incredible. Gets a giant pop. I do love it. I think that's very, like, empowering. I think it's awesome that they're letting it happen. And we had it where The Miz threw Daniel Bryan over the ropes and into Brie Bella. And I kind of think that intergender action and wrestling and the kind of hits that they're allowing them to take is really progressive and really awesome. And I would love, love, love to see that developed more on Sunday. So what I'm really excited about, and the reason this for me is number one, is because I do think there's a little bit of harm to be done in saying, like, don't call it Brie versus Maurice if it's not Maurice if it's not going to be Brie versus Maurice, and give them that time to develop that. But also, I'm really excited for this, guys. I think that The Miz and Daniel Bryan have done a great job. Like, I mean, their feud is built. I think that Brie and Maurice have shown why they're there. I think the company has used really innovative ways to allow them to stake their claim in this match, whether that be Maurice being like, screw you, Daniel Bryan, it took you 3 years to come back, it took me 5 months, or Brie Bella just punching The Miz in the face. I think that their ability to use this kind of intergender match. I mean, these are people working with the people they are the closest to in this world. So everything's being handled with care and thoughtfully. I just hope they give it the time that it deserves. I hope the women get to be as involved as possible, and that we really do get to see them go a little bit one-on-one. But I'm really excited for what this match potentially holds and what it means for the future of intergender tag matches in the WWE. So that, ladies and gentlemen, has been our SmackDown speed through. Make sure to let us know your thoughts on social media. I thought it was a great episode of SmackDown Live. I think that everything built really well as this go-home show before Hell in a Cell, but we want to hear your thoughts. So go on Twitter, tweet at us, let us know what you thought about the episode. And speaking of social media, it's time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we're having a little bit of fun. So our question for this week is going to be Birdie Joe Danielson versus Monroe Sky Mizanin at WrestleMania 60 in the main event. Who wins? You decide. At that point, they will both be wrestling royalty. At that point, there will be no question that there will be women in the main event of WrestleMania. So Birdie Joe versus Monroe Sky. Who do you got? Let us know. Go on Twitter and vote. We'll be running a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours and announcing the results here on the show next week. Make sure you comment. Every week we read out some of our favorite responses. And with that in mind, we're going to get to the results of last week's topic. So last week, we asked you guys who you thought would dethrone The Miz and Asuka as the new mixed match tag team champions from SmackDown Live. And overwhelmingly, you guys said Charlotte Flair and AJ Styles. These two took about 51% of the vote. Honestly, a little bit surprising to me just because they are both champions, so such a normal, actually, like, sensible choice. And the next closest were R-Truth and Carmella. I still think a very fair choice, especially seeing that we got to see them back together on SmackDown Live this week. We didn't really get any comments for this one. Fair enough. It was a straightforward question. But make sure you go on Twitter at TagMeAmbro and vote for your thoughts for the main event of Mania 60, Birdie Joe or Maurice Mizanin. That's been our Hi to the People segment, and now it's time for our main event.
Ooh, a different voice now. Tommy here, and today on the main event, we're going to be discussing what's next for AJ Styles after Hell in a Cell? Now, not to spoil what our ideas are of what might be happening this Sunday between Samoa Joe and AJ Styles at Hell in a Cell, but there is a chance, a flicker, an idea that Samoa Joe might be walking off with the WWE Championship, leaving AJ Styles to head somewhere else. They could obviously take this forward onto Survivor Series, but there are definitely some things that we can see AJ doing over the next weeks and months. Something that we can definitely see AJ Styles going into is a more large-scale Survivor Series feud. So SmackDown Live being the house that AJ Styles built, it's really baked in to his character as it stands right now. We could see him kind of take himself out of the title picture completely rather than having a contractually obligated rematch at Super Showdown or something like that. He could just say, you know what, I don't want to focus on the WWE Championship at the moment. I want to focus on protecting my legacy. SmackDown Live is the house that I built, and to cement that legacy, I want SmackDown Live to be successful at Survivor Series. This could definitely happen. We could even have the contractually obligated rematch happen at the Super Showdown, which I would not be surprised to see if Samoa Joe picks up the title at Hell in a Cell. But this could be a really interesting direction, and kind of the most likely direction for AJ Styles to go if he does in fact lose the title on Sunday. Another direction I could see AJ going in is to the US title picture. Now, obviously we've had a lot of Styles Nakamura matches, but not in this way where the roles have been reversed. Back in the early spring, late spring, and then summer, a very long time, AJ Styles was defending his WWE Championship against Nakamura. And eventually, after Nakamura turned heel after WrestleMania, that continued on into the future, but we've not seen it the other way around. I personally prefer AJ in this sort of character where he is fighting for a championship. It's always easy to root for AJ Styles, but it's definitely a lot easier when he's not defending a title, but rather fighting for it. Nakamura has had nothing going on the last couple of weeks on SmackDown Live, as he's probably in contract negotiations. That's what people are thinking. But that would be a really interesting way to not only kind of move AJ Styles swiftly but gracefully out of the WWE Championship picture, but also move him into this feud and really pick up the prestige of the US Championship, which has definitely faltered since Nakamura has not been actively defending it in any sort of open challenge or something like that, as is normally done. So we could definitely see AJ Styles moving into the US title picture if he does in fact lose the championship at Hell in a Cell. To kind of round out, let's say, with a third idea of what might happen, a third hypothesis is that you don't really need AJ in a title picture. He could conceivably, if Randy Orton is successful at Hell in a Cell, I think you could see a very interesting feud between the two of them. This legend killer could be trying to kill the modern day legend that is AJ Styles. There's a really interesting dichotomy between the two of them as guys of a very similar age, but really different upbringing. In the past, we've seen AJ really pull the best out of people like John Cena, not just in terms of in-ring work, but in terms of kind of storyline. Obviously, Cena and Orton have a long history coming up in the business together. A lot of those same themes could really be easily drawn upon in this context, maybe going forward for AJ Styles and Randy Orton. We haven't seen Randy Orton in a really good match in a super long time. I do think he's kind of underutilized in his feuds. They're much more cerebral and they're more talky and less fighty. But any feud with AJ Styles is going to kind of bring the best out of someone like Randy Orton. And Randy Orton's heel character, though it's kind of let's say, cooled off recently. I'm sure that Hell in a Cell match on Sunday is going to be truly, truly something. So it will be interesting to see where he goes from there, assuming he wins. AJ Styles loses. I think it would be really a barnstorming feud between the two of them. So that's kind of my 3 ideas as to where AJ Styles might go if he does, in fact, lose the title at Hell in a Cell. Whether he will or not totally remains to be seen. And by seen, I mean seen by us as we watch Hell in a Cell on Sunday. Let us know what you think AJ Styles might do if he loses the WWE Championship. Tweet at us, @TagMeInBro, and give us your idea. I don't know what you're thinking. Those were the 3 that I came up with, but send us your thoughts. And now it's time for our Stars of the Night. Our number 3 star of the night is AJ Styles' white trimmed jeans. Wow, those bell bottoms just looked great on him. No, AJ Styles gave a, though pre-taped, so inherently a little less interesting, promo talking about his feud with Samoa Joe, how Samoa Joe has gone too far. Though the specifics are not super important, it's AJ's determination and focus in that promo that really gets him into this number 3 spot for the night. He's obviously very good on the mic, very capable, but he kind of does tend to get enveloped by the crowd's reaction to him, and he can hit those classic lines here and there and just pop the crowd at will, but very rarely do we get to see him really get to focus on what he has to say and not worry about what the crowd might say back at him. And our number 2 star of the night, following closely with the 3rd, is Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe doesn't have to wrestle to be awesome. Truly a great promo. In this pre-recorded bit, as a response to AJ Styles, he read a storybook complete with very creepily illustrated drawings of Wendy and Annie, AJ Styles' wife and daughter. And it just, he is so good at finding the perfect balance between creepy and scary. It would be so easy to take a, hey, Wendy kind of thing, and it's so easily memeable, so ridiculously over the top if it's not said by the right person. But gosh, Samoa Joe's always the right person. He finds that balance, and he keeps this feud going. They have not touched a single time over the course of really the last few weeks, and yet this match, we're all hype for it. And our number 1 star of the night is Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch came out after the match that Charlotte had with Sonya Deville, beating her by submission, and was wearing a wig, came out of the crowd, and beat the shit out of Charlotte Flair. It seems like they're sticking with this heel thing for Becky Lynch, and you know what? It's finally working. Becky Lynch is a great performer who can make things like this work. I was a little afraid that the crowd would never turn on her, but this super cowardly way of doing it, of jumping out, not only is it exciting, but the crowd understands this is like not the way to do things. The way to do things would be the way they did it before SummerSlam, where they had these little riffs in between them and they had discussions to each other's face. But now, like last week, we had the dual interview CNN style thing, and then this week we just had Becky beating the shit out of Charlotte. She's working with what she's being given, and she's killing it. She really is. She's got the crowd to actually turn against her, despite the fact that she is one of the most over people in probably the whole women's division on SmackDown, to be honest. And that is why, Becky Lynch, you deserve it. That's going to do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to tweet at us this week and take a look out for some special episodes as we head into Hell in a Cell. I know that Joe has put up Raw I still can't believe that he's literally put up control of the pod just to get John to stop hacking into the Twitter. I understand the Twitter is important, but the podcast is the thing. Well, look, we'll see if the confidence turns into arrogance and then eventually into hubris as we see what happens with the Raw podcast. Oy vey. Look out also this week for a predictions podcast where Taryn and I will go up against one another. I have offered her, and she has accepted a title shot for my Tag Me and Bro World Heavyweight Championship, which I hold because I can predict wrestling pay-per-view matches. And that will continue to be the case long into the future. Or maybe not. We'll see what happens. But keep an eye out for those two coming up this week on iTunes, Castro, Podbean, wherever else your podcasts are served to you. As always, follow us on Twitter at TagMeAndBro. We'll be live tweeting the pay-per-view as we always do. So stick with us as we go to Hell in a Cell. I've been Tommy. She was Taryn. Goodbye, universe.